Greetings, children, and welcome to a new series where I review the good, the bad, and the in-between of our favorite book series. I'm starting off at the beginning with Wings of Fire, the Dragonet Prophecy. In the future, I also plan to review Warriors in Order, so look forward to that as well. Now, let's get started, shall we? The Dragonet Prophecy, the first ever book in what would come to be many more. What began the rise of popularity of this series and thousands of fans joining together to share in the amazing story. If you don't know what the series is about, the first 5 books, the first arc, is about the war-riddled continent of Perea, a long-running war of Sandwing succession. Who should be the new queen of the Sandwings? Queen Oasis, the previous queen, had been murdered by a scavenger, a human, and now 3 sisters who are all heirs to the throne took alliances with other tribes to fight to the death to decide the next queen. There was a prophecy that came up during this as well, which I will repeat for you. When the war has lasted 20 years, the Dragonets will come. When the land is soaked in blood and tears, the Dragonets will come. Find the sea-wing egg of deepest blue, wings of night shall come to you. The largest egg in mountain high will give to you the wings of sky. For wings of earth search through the mud, for an egg of the color of dragon blood. And hidden alone from the rival queens, the sand-wing egg awaits unseen. Of 3 queens who blister and blaze and burn, 2 shall die, and 1 shall learn. If she bows to a fate that is stronger and higher, she'll have the power of wings of fire. 5 eggs to hatch on brightest night, 5 dragons born to end the fight. Darkness will rise to bring the light. The Dragonets are coming. In the story, we follow the perspective of these Dragonets of Destiny and their journey to ending this brutal war. So, I'll tell you now, if you haven't read these books, read them, they're great, but there will be spoilers for all of Book 1 in this video. Otherwise, enjoy! This book was truly a great starter to the series. We are introduced to this universe in somewhat the same way Clay and the Dragonets are, in the dark. We are immersed into a pretty cold and unwelcoming environment at first, with the dark and musty caves the Dragonets of Destiny call their home. Their guardians, Webbs, Dune, and Kestrel, are all awful to them, and they are desperate to escape. We, as readers, have as much knowledge as the protagonists do at the start. I love this way of world building. It's slow, in line with our protagonists, so we can learn alongside them. This is especially made better by how we are in the perspective of Clay, the clueless, pretty absent-minded Mudwing Dragonet. He is the biggest and arguably strongest of them all, and we can see his fierce need to protect his friends, and we can feel it ourselves as well. His perspective makes us just as clueless as well, which is a very nice effect, especially when you're just starting out and gradually learning about the series and the world it takes place in. Once Clay, and ultimately the reader, is introduced to the idea of escaping by tsunami, things get more interesting. They were already interesting before, of course, but now we get a sense of excitement. Hey, what if we did escape? What is really in the outside world? At first, it's a thing they can still ponder on. They don't have to be hasty about it, until Big Bad Moroseer is introduced to the story. He visits the Dragonet cave to see how the 5 are doing. There's a big issue with this, though. The Dragonet are full dragons one would have expected from such a widely known and looked up to prophecy. They have no wings of sky, which was the skywing needed for the prophecy, and instead have Glory, a rainwing, who are seen as useless and lazy and pathetic. Glory, of course, is none of these things, but you can't change their mind, really. And Sunny, their sandwing, does not look like a normal sandwing should at all. She's bright golden, an unnatural color for a sandwing, and she has no tail barb. It's a mystery as to why this is, but it isn't something that is focused on in this book. Starflight, their Nightwing, meanwhile, is pretty cowardly and does not have any of the special Nightwing powers that they are said to have, which are mind reading and future sight. So when Moroseer comes to visit them, he's enraged. Everything was wrong. He orders Glory to be taken care of. Well, the Dragonets aren't there, of course. The Guardians reluctantly agree. Clay eavesdrops on their conversation discussing how to kill Glory. You can tell even Kestrel, who is the meanest of the 3, wasn't very keen on killing her, even if she was a rainwing. On the bottom of page 53, it's written, "It has to be me. Kestrel said in a choked, tense voice. She's willing to do it, but she doesn't really want to. Something tiny like that showing her true character is really nice to see for me. Of course, the Dragonets can't let them do that. Clay warns them about what the Guardians plan to do to Glory. This suddenly turns the, what if we could escape, into we need to escape right now. The urgency of the situation is set up and executed very well. We feel attached to the characters at this point, and the threat feels real. So the five devise a plan to escape. Glory is able to make herself invisible via camouflage to hide from the Guardians for the night, so they just need a route to get outside of the caves. Then they figure that maybe going underwater is their only way, but Tsunami, being a sea wing who can breathe underwater, has been chained up by the Guardians, so it's up to Clay, as Mudwings can hold their breath for an extended amount of time. This is a cool scene to me, where Clay is forced to take on such a dangerous task that they aren't even sure will work, but still pushing forward with the sole determination of protecting his friends. His personality is set very well, and we understand immediately that he would die for his friends if he had to, because he could very well die in the water. He can only hold his breath for so long. So on he goes, where we spend some time in action with Clay's nervous thoughts in the pitch darkness and cold water. Tui does a great job of setting the mood. I'm going to skip forward a little now to when he made it out of the caves. Tsunami came out with him, and we, along with the characters, are exposed to the outside world at the same time. It's such a glorious moment. Everything is new and exciting and big. The way their scales are described in this new and brighter light of sun, gorgeous. Here's an excerpt from page 98. Clay had to bite back a gasp. While the sun brought out his colors, it made her look bejeweled, like a dragon made of sapphires and emeralds or summer leaves and oceans. This is in reference to Tsunami as the sun rises. Not to skip over the introduction of Queen Scarlet, definitely not. When we first meet the Queen of the Skywings, she doesn't seem all that threatening. She's kind of playful in a sinister way, but nothing that is immediately alarming. With Clay's little knowledge of the outside world, even when Scarlet bites off the head of the scavenger, we don't really get a sense of fear or shock. Clay sees it as normal because that's what he was taught, and so that's what we were taught as well. She is easily overpowered by Tsunami as she strikes the end of her tail, a dragon weak point, and they manage to fly away and escape. We think this threat is gone, now that it is completely forgotten about in favor of saving the others. Clay and Tsunami fly back to where the Dragonet cave is, hoping to find the smoke rising from the top. They spot it and open up the cave to get the others free. But that's when things go horribly downhill. Queen Scarlet is back, with more skywings and more ferocity. Suddenly her threat explodes in our faces, and we realize she is going to have a major impact. Keeping that sinisterly joyful aura, she takes over, snapping Dune's neck and taking Kestrel and the Dragonets prisoner. Webbs manage to escape in the water, but only barely. Once we see the death of Dune through Clay's eyes, that horrible sense of dread is instilled easily within us, and that's what I love. Tui is not afraid of character death, and she displays that Scarlet is not joking around despite her cheerful appearance. This is the imagery we are given from Dune's death on page 115. But it was too late. With a chilling crack, Queen Scarlet snapped Dune's neck and dropped his body on the stone floor. Along with this, we also realized that the Dragonets were defeated, and they were to go with Queen Scarlet as prisoners to their deathbeds. Now the Dragonets are stuck in the Sky Kingdom. All of them are alone, with Clay, Tsunami, and Starflight up on the prison pillars surrounding the arena. Glory as Scarlet's art, and Sunny nowhere to be found. This whole section of the book is probably my favorite. Part 1 did an excellent job at introducing the characters and their relationships with each other, as well as the situation and as much world building as Clay could provide. Section 2 is where we get the most action. It's basically the meat of the book. This is where the reader is left to realize this world is dark and unwelcoming, especially when we are shown how brutal this arena truly is. Peril, the resident psychopath, Queen Scarlet's arena champion, melts a sandwing by just touching him. Clay is horrified. He had to sit there and watch, just how he did with Dune. This shows us how real this is, and the danger the Dragonets are in. I want to talk about Clay and Peril's relationship in this book now. There's something off about it. Peril's all cheery and happy and oblivious to the fact that killing is very wrong. Clay is sad and anxious about his friends. Why does he seem so okay with her being a murderer? We see him thinking, oh, that's horrible, she's crazy, but it isn't an urgent thought. And when Peril's around him, he acts completely chill, like, oh, this is fine. I just wish he was a little more shocked over this. It feels so strange that he just accepts it and doesn't seem as bothered as he really should be. Besides that, the way Peril's character was executed was done nicely, and I like it, even though Clay's reactions to her seem way too watered down to me. Anyways, moving on before this video becomes an hour long, eventually Clay is set to fight in the arena against an Icewing. He tries to talk to the Icewing instead of fight. This feels very in character, and I admire that his insistence on not hurting others is consistent, not wanting to take anyone's life, good or bad, even if it costs his own life. The Icewing pins Clay down, just about to kill him and win the match, but suddenly something hits his face. It's a few black droplets, only a few, but they melt the Icewing's face right off, and it doesn't take long for him to die. So now there's this mystery of how that happened, and Peril is actually scared of Clay, as everyone thinks he did that. Skip a little bit, Queen Scarlet's hatching day is coming up, and Byrne is coming to visit the Sky Kingdom. Scarlet wants a special show in the arena. First, she pitches Tsunami to a crazed Seawing, deprived of water for months. I love this scene because Tsunami, despite not wanting to kill, knows she has no choice. But she does it out of spite, and you can tell the hatred she has for Scarlet for making her do this. On page 221, it reads, Tsunami lifted her chin and stared straight into Queen Scarlet's eyes. With a wrench of her talons, she snapped Gil's neck in one clean break. The expression on her face said, all too clearly, I'm imagining this is you. It brings out how bold Tsunami is, and how far she's willing to go, even if she doesn't like it. Right after that, Starflight is brought out to fight her. Of course, instead of laying a single harmful talon on the other, they hug. Queen Scarlet gets angry and sets scavengers on them, and then Icewings. Well, they didn't have time to get to the Icewings. Morrissey returned with many other Nightwings, plucked Starflight from the arena, and murdered all of Scarlet's Icewings with a simple command. So Starflight is out of the way for the rest of the book, except for the very end. If anything, I'm baffled by this. That's probably the reaction Tui wants from us, though, which, totally fair, it worked. But let's skip a little more, to where finally Peril has to fight Clay. They had drawn apart after Peril betrayed him and his friends out of jealousy. But now they had to fight to the death, and it was a choice between her mother Kestrel or her friend Clay. Keep in mind, Clay is immune to fire, so Peril's fire skills don't work on him. They fight each other reluctantly until it's at a standstill, where Scarlet shouts for Clay to use his venom. The two stop, surprised. Queen Scarlet wasn't the one who did that? Then who did? In an all too exhilarating moment, Peril and Clay look up and suddenly glories awaken ferociously spitting black venom droplets straight at Scarlet and Byrne. Byrne manages to dodge, but Queen Scarlet wasn't so lucky. Her face burned and she screamed. Chaos ensues. Everyone sitting around at the arena has jumped up and started running and flying, trying desperately to get away from the danger. Now the stakes are high and the pacing is fittingly quickened along with it. If there is any time to escape, it would be now. The Dragonets gather together again and look for Sunny. Peril tags along. They save Sunny and make for their runaway. Peril is hesitant, but Clay convinces her it's alright and she follows them. They also free Kestrel upon Peril's request. All of them get as far from the arena as possible while the commotion is still happening, and now that the danger and suspense is over, the pacing slows down in line with it. Kestrel leaves, and so does Peril, but not together. The sped-up pacing really makes the experience of reading the scene a lot more suspenseful. It was lined up well, and so was the slowing down of it when the immediate threat was no longer. But in the next section is where I have a slight issue with the pacing. The last and shortest section of the book. Now that they're out of Queen Scarlet's grasp, they have a goal to find their families and learn about them. Clay comes first, and they head for the Mud Kingdom. I have a couple problems with this last section. I feel like it was kind of rushed. The end of the book didn't get enough time to itself. I think it needed at least a little more for the effect to be better, so it wouldn't feel so, what's the word, condensed? I can't find a good synonym for rushed. Let's just continue. The second thing is about when Glory disguised herself as a Mudwing. How did she not look conspicuous at all? Nobody even thought it was a little odd? I get that Clay's mother probably didn't care enough to notice, and the sleeping Mudwings in the mud were probably too busy doing their thing to give her a second look. Maybe you could even say the first Sib group they ran into were too distracted with what they were doing to care about a pair of Dragonets. Sure. But I don't see an excuse for Clay's siblings. They can't possibly be that ignorant, can they? Like, at least make a light-hearted remark that Glory looks a bit odd. Or, if that's too much, just a side glance. That's all I want. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say about this book. Overall, it's written very well, despite those few things, and it's a great start to an epic series. That said, it goes in the A tier for me, saving that S tier for the big-time favorites. Well, if you enjoyed and stuck around to hear what I had to say in this very long video, maybe subscribe? I will be doing more book reviews and adding to the tier list in future videos, and it'll be a fun journey. If you have suggestions on more videos I can make, feel free to comment them. I'd definitely like to try them out. Farewell, friends!